Hi, Niall.
Hi Alec, how are you getting on?
Great. Gosh, there was plenty there for me to say. I've nearly got the interview finished with that one.
That's a mouthful for
Anyway,
you, all right?
let me take you back to your last year in school, as I do with everybody. This is kind of a trip down memory lane. Were you the academic? Were you the traveling person? What were you, and where did you want to go with your life?
I suppose like with everyone that's just finished school, you're looking forward for more academia. I think that's where it fell for me. It was between sport and academia. So I think I chose the academic part with product design. Luckily I got into a course in DIT Bolton Street, and I managed to complete the 4 years and move forward from there. So it was great. Great learning curve, great course, and I really found the skills that I really wanted to do in life.
You had a choice though at the beginning. I mean, it was either sport, rugby, which I believe is a bit of a passion of yours, or going into college. What was the deciding factor on that?
Um, what was the deciding factor on that? Obviously, rugby was my passion, and that's what I was good at back then in school when I was 18,
Mm.
19, and had a chance to play Leinster A, and I turned that down for the fact that I just found product design to be the direction that I needed to go. So rather than trying to do two things really, really good, I just decided that the academic route was best for me.
In terms of product design, a lot of people wouldn't be familiar with the term, but you might give some examples. But were you one of these people who just like taking things apart to see how they were constructed?
I was, yeah. It used to be a nightmare for my parents, all right. Taking toasters and computers and whatnot apart and putting it back together. Well, sometimes putting it back together. But yeah, I suppose on a really high level explanation of product design, it's taking a concept, whether it's a product or, well, mainly being a product, or it can be services or businesses, from a concept all the way through to implementation, whether that is production, high scale production, or one-off production. So it's concept through to product, and that's really the main thing. And it interprets or different aspects like the how do you sell the product, how do you market the product, how do you get your IP and your patents incorporated on the product, and then ultimately the production of it. So from 3D modeling all the way to tooling and creation of it.
I mean, it's quite interesting in the sense that I mean, it's such a broad topic. However, you did find your sort of heart in one particular area of it.
Yeah, and obviously the interpretation of briefs is what I was really good at, and that's the main thing when you're especially in business, is when a client comes to you with a project, how to interpret what they're looking for and produce the best possible service or product for them is what I've become very good at. But it was the marketing aspect of product design, the course there, that really caught my eye, and it was rather than creating this beautiful product and all the form versus function and the different design ethoses of it, but it was how to sell that product, and that's what really got me going. And how do I, rather than selling this on a corner shop and you've got an immediate demographic around there, but how am I going to market this to the world, or how are you going to become the next Apple or the next Amazon? And it's really that those sort of influencers in our industry kind of paved the way for how marketing really sells, not the product. And obviously, listen, the product has to work, it has to be beautiful, it has to be great, but how you market it is really the key to everything in the industry at the moment.
I'm going to come back to that. I'm just going to continue on our journey for a few minutes and then we'll come back because I think it's very important. There's a number of aspects there, as you said, about understanding a brief, interpreting in a brief, and then scaling a product and getting it to market. So we will talk about that in a few minutes. But just to take you on your journey, so you finished your studies. Where were you off to next?
So finished studies, didn't know really where I was going to go next, because I suppose for when I graduated in 2013, product design was quite a new word. It was quite a new course. So for us, as graduates, we were kind of applying for jobs that didn't exist, and people didn't really understand what the product designer did and where they sat in the companies. So I was presented with a position in a printers here in Dublin, from one of our lecturers. He sent me on an application. So I applied for the job. I went for the interview, didn't really understand what it was. And the position was a structural designer.
Right.
Didn't get it the first time around. And fortunately, whoever had filled the position couldn't hack it. the first 2 weeks, so I got a call then. So I was the second choice, but I went in, and I remained there for 3.5 years. So basically what the position was we created custom structures for the print point of sale industry. So that would have been anything from retail to permanent displays in airports and all that sort of stuff. So it was very interesting, and I think that's where I gained most of my industry knowledge, from the printing industry, and being able to, again, as you said, going back to interpreting a brief and delivering on a design and a production.
It must have been quite interesting because you were going to be given budgets, and also then to work with various materials, whether they were going to be transitory or long-term installations. So
Yeah.
it must have provided some interesting challenges for you.
Well, materials first and foremost was a mind-boggling experience of what is possible to do with certain materials, anything from paper, cardboard, MDF, PVCs, perspex, you name it. I've built something out of everything, and that was really what I found interesting. And then coming up with new solutions as to how to utilize those materials in displays was even more interesting to me. And then going from a single custom display to a high production run of 1,000 units was really, really interesting, and definitely something that has guided me through my whole creative experience as well.
I think also you mentioned when we were sort of having a chat earlier that you had a mentor in the company, which is very important to people in business who were able to steer you.
Yeah, so the MD of said company was a big part of I suppose my growth in business and me becoming an entrepreneur and having my own business. It just really showed me the value of my work and the value that I can add to a client. He basically took me under his wing, would guide me in processes that really weren't applicable to my job title, but I really feel he took his time with me, and even in client meetings and the way that we approach projects together, his guidance was just second to none, and it kind of showed me, it really opened the door to the way that I wanted to go in my life.
And there was another interesting aspect of this too, because you got an introduction to what it was like to manage a team, which is not everybody's strength.
No, and Janie Mac, yeah, that was probably the biggest experience for me. I had a team of 12 under me, so obviously myself being a mid-20s, managing a team of 12 would be quite daunting for some people. And it ranged from studio designers, you had other structural guys with me, and then we had production staff, Consberg, which is kind of cutting machine, CNC routers. So it was basically managing them, and it was I suppose filling the void between the design world and the production world. In most senses, a lot of people would think that it's quite a simple thing, but coming from a design studio and getting a brief from a client and then translating that into a product that you have to mass produce is very, very difficult. So those two worlds are never meant to really coexist in a happy sense. So being able to do that in a diplomatic sense while managing production runs and all daily work and all that was definitely a valuable experience for me, and bringing it into my current company.
It certainly must have been a sharp learning curve because, as you said, between designers and production staff, there's certain, I won't say animosity, but there's certainly a lack of understanding of the challenges that each face.
Oh yeah, definitely. And really that's where I suppose diplomacy comes into it, and being understanding in the sense that not everyone's going to understand each other or come from the same angle. So being able to interpret a production manager's wants and needs as to the design department's wants and needs, and being the middleman between that was definitely it caused a bit of hassle in some senses, but we got through it. That's the whole thing about growth and learning, which is definitely something that I remember fondly.
It's nice when you have a mentor like that to take you on, but you obviously weren't going to be staying there forever, so you had other ambitions.
Yeah, and other ambitions, I suppose, didn't come until after I took some time off. So I was there 3.5 years in the printers, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do, Alex. So I
Mm,
decided to take about 8 months off. So I actually went to the French Alps and I went skiing for 6 months. Sort of a dream little holiday that I've always wanted to do. My passion is skiing. I've been skiing since I was a kid with my parents. So we used to go every year, and we go different aspects or different areas in Europe. And this
mm.
was actually my first time in the French Alps. So definitely an experience. Highly recommend it to anyone to just go for a holiday, or if they're thinking of a ski season, just don't think, just go.
Yeah,
So then when I came back, I really had my vision set. I knew I didn't want to go back to the printers. The job was there for me when before I left, and then when I came back, had a discussion with my mentor, and he could kind of see it in my eye that I wasn't ready to
sure.
come back. I didn't want to go back. So then I decided to set up a sole trader business.
All right.
And from there, it's kind of spiraled onto where I'm sitting here today. Where when I started with that, the sole trader business was kind of taking the leap of faith on myself. And it's that one thing where you finally, you kind of scares the hell out of you, and you go, well, I've no salary coming in now, I've no nothing, only it's me, and I've got to go out there and do it. So I had a great support network as well, with friends and family that were able to guide me and help me through that.
It's one of the challenges. It's one thing having the ambition to run a business. It's another thing when you have to roll up your sleeves and actually do it.
Correct. And I don't think people really appreciate that. It's hard work. Every business is hard work. There's no point sugarcoating it.
Mm,
If you have the drive, the passion, and the desire to work and work well, or sorry, work hard, you will succeed no matter what. There's an element of luck to it. There's an element of the business you're in, but
sure.
I really think that if you want to succeed and you have the passion to do it, it comes naturally to people like myself.
I think you did something quite wise, and that was taking the skiing holiday to find some time of your own and kind of work out what you had a passion to do, as opposed to just find yourself on a treadmill and keep going.
Correct. Yeah. And I think everyone needs to reset. Whether or not, whether it's a holiday or whether it's a gap year, whatever way you want to call it. But I think everyone needs to reset, because you really need to find what makes you tick and what is going to drive you, because everyone burns out, and it's a common thing, especially in a creative space that we're in. Is you may need to take 2 weeks off or 3 weeks off here and there just to reset, because your brain is operating at such a high level of intensity that if you don't take a rest, you're just going to burn out, and you're no use to anyone then. And it's the same in business. If you
Mm.
keep going, as you say, on the treadmill, you're never going to have a break, and you're never going to actually think and figure out what you really want to do.
I mean, I suppose the next step in your journey to show the power of networking, which you seem to have anyway. And tell us about that. What was going to happen next?
Yeah, so I suppose I'll take you to the start of the journey of this company that I'm currently with. So it was I was going to a business coach who's a mutual friend of my business partner, and discussing aspects with him, like websites and all this sort of stuff, and that I didn't have enough time to do it, and I was struggling to get things off the ground. So he says, why would you do your own website? There's no point doing it. So I
Yeah.
says, oh yeah, but I don't know anyone, and blah blah blah. And he says, well, I have a fella right upstairs. So in walks Patrick, my business partner, and we hit it off instantly from the start. Kind of had the same character, same drive, same kind of same personality. So he ends up doing the website for my sole trader business. Worked out great. And then over the next year and a half, we kind of passed business between each other. I did some jobs for him and vice versa. Had a good click. So then out of the blue, it must have been about 2 years after that, he would have given me a call and said, how would you like to have a small piece of a big pie rather than a big piece of a small pie? And from there, it was kind of a natural progression into opening up the limited company that we have now, which we started in August 2018.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And again, it just shows you the power of finding the right person. This, I suppose, sometimes goes down to look at personalities that sort of meet and have an understanding of each other.
Yeah, and you need to. That's the whole thing about business and people you work with. Like, people do business with people, and it's the same if who you're working with, if it's a partnership or if it's staff, employees that are with you as well. You have to be on the same level. You have to have the same aspirations, the same kind of creative flow, and the same kind of drive. Because if someone's not really on your level, you're not really
Mm.
going to work together very well.
And was it difficult to sort of assign what we might call tasks to one another, in the sense that, because the partners run into so many problems, oh, that's my job, that's your job, sort of thing?
Yeah, it's a learning curve. That's all I'll say to that. Look, we've been in business 3 years together now, and there's ups and downs. But I think we work well together as far as we're honest, everything's transparent, and when something needs to be done, we just kind of roll up the sleeves and do it.
There was something you said a minute ago, and I want to come back to this now because I think it's relevant for the audience that are listening. You were trying to build a website, and even though you might have had some creativity juices running through you, um, you were pointed in a direction of getting somebody else to do it.
Yes. So where that comes from is, and I suppose a lot of business owners will know this, is your time is everything. So rather than doing something, so obviously I could have opened up a Wix site or a WordPress, and I could have watched YouTube and learned how to do it, but that would have taken me 10 times as long for someone else to do it, like Patrick. So utilize your time based on the skill set that you have is probably my biggest tip for anyone. So yes, you can do everything. It is very possible for people to learn how to do a website or create a logo or do a strategy document or whatever you may be. But there are other people out there that do it a lot better than you. And it is better to utilize their expertise, spend a little bit of money, but then maximize your time to spend it on somewhere else that you're very good at, like selling the business, like developing other sort of aspects and arms to the business. So that's the biggest thing I took from that experience, and still hold to this day, is utilize other expertise, maximize your own time.
It's amazing the number of people who take on these tasks, and there's two things about it. Number one, they don't have the skill, and secondly, they don't even want to do it because they don't like it.
Yeah, you have to like it. You have to like your job. That's the other thing. Like, people get up every day and they're not really they're not animated. They don't want to get up and do their job. But that's, I suppose, for me, that's what I love doing. I get up out of bed and I nearly like springboard out of it. I'm happy to get up. I'm happy to be here and drive something that I believe in. And as you say, yeah, if they're not happy about it, they're not going to do it, or they don't like doing the job, they won't do it to the best of their ability either. So find people that can do it to the best of their ability and utilize them.
Just kind of going back and having set up a business, now you're in partnership, now you have a limited company. What do you think were the biggest challenges that sort of were at the beginning of that road and journey?
Naivety was probably our biggest downfall. Growing too fast would have been year one. Year two would have been a bit more reset and focus on what we did best. And then year three is kind of where we've hit the meandering stage of the life cycle, where we know what works, processes are in place, things are working. And it's more about communication for us, and then getting the business model in line with our day-to-day exercises,
I'm a big fan of processes. Just talk about processes from your aspect of it and the importance of them in the business.
Yeah, so the importance with us, obviously, we, like, our whole business model is we're an outsourced marketing agency for other companies. So whereas we facilitate marketing needs on an objective based exercise. So we work with companies on a monthly basis to achieve their marketing goals. And how we do that is we have a team of creatives with a variety of skills that permanent employees or full-time employees within that company may not have. So we help marketing departments achieve everything, and we become the centralized supplier. So it's basically a one-stop shop marketing. So back to that.
Back to that question.
Yeah, I just went off on a tangent there, Alec. My apologies about that.
No, hey, listen, that's what it's all about. We're just having a chat here. No, in terms of your own skill set, then, if we talk about this, this has really taken you sort of full circle from college into the whole end of the marketing and scalability of things and helping clients achieve that.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's about growth at this stage for us, and for clients. Like, our ultimate goal is to make our clients money. And you're naive if you think in business that everyone thinks it's any different. We're all here to make money, and we make our clients look good and make them money. So part of the things that we do through digital transformation and online advertisement, or if it's a custom website that's driving traffic through a sales funnel, or it's generating leads that are ultimately as conversions for clients onboarding for their clients, you know. So it's always a growth process for us, whether it's internal and external. So we always like to see our clients grow, because that means that we grow. If they're getting more money, that means they need more of our services, and more of our services, it means we grow. We are able to hire more creatives, more people, and ultimately become a bigger agency.
One of the challenges that you have is that the sort of rapid change in technology and the use of maybe social media. How do you keep abreast of that sort of element of the business?
Yeah, it's the digital space is changing daily. It's kind of mind-boggling. Like we're subscribed to various channels where we get all this feedback, but we have obviously premium subscriptions for LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. So we have account managers there that we usually have a monthly discussion with them about what's upcoming and what's different. And then generally the creatives that we have here, we're very up to date on all the things that are changing, and then being able to interpret the brief and reflect it to the client. So being able to tell them what's new, what's coming up. And yeah, so I suppose
a challenge. It's a challenge.
It's a challenge, yeah.
And this kind of just kind of knocks on the head the whole idea that as an individual company trying to do it for yourself, particularly if you're in a smaller type company, really is not viable.
No, there's too much to do. There's not enough time, and that's for us as well. Like we have dedicated people that handle our social. We've dedicated people that handle our SEO. There's things like that are it's easy just to find a partner company, let them do it, and that's obviously we practice what we preach as well. So if we don't have enough time to do all of our own stuff, then we're not going to have enough time to do all of our clients' stuff as well.
If I take you back to just a couple of minutes ago, we were talking about the value of processes. Have you many within the business that you've mapped out, or as just a couple?
Yeah, so I suppose we have a wide variety of services, and each service has a process for it. So the idea being is that you take a key personnel out of the company, or they're absent for holidays, or they're absent for whatever reason, is that there is another person that's able to pick that up because the processes are easy to follow. So that's, especially for us being a small company as well, there are key elements or key personnel here that when you take them out of the equation, it's quite a big it's a big effect on the company. So having the processes in place means that we can mitigate the risk and also mitigate the time lost on people being out.
Would you like to share with our audience maybe how you went about that, just on a very basic level?
It was our board of directors, really. We have two board of directors that helped us with the processes over the last 2 years, and kind of pushed us to do it. It's been a monumental change, I think, in the way we think and the way that we've grown, and also being able to kind of adapt it to our clients' projects and different portfolio aspects. It's it's very difficult to explain processes on a very high level, especially with the amount that we have here. But it just means that even kind of automating things, like we take website design and development, for instance, we have a process now where you'll fill out a questionnaire, then you'll have a scope meeting with our CTO. Then from that, you'll get an estimate. Then from there, you decide on whether or not you want to go with it, or you want to negotiate, or etc. And then from there, it goes to design stage one. So design stage one, you get a flat PDF design where there's kind of, based on your brief and the scope document, all the factors come into it. And there you've got 2 rounds of that. You decide on what you like, which is the look and flow of the homepage. And then from there, it's translated to the rest of the website. And after that's approved and all the content's received, you go to development stage. Once development stage is done, then it goes to live. So it's all about making it easy for us internally, but also for the client. So it's clear, mapped out process of start to finish, timelines being given, and also that, again, as I said, if there's a key personnel taken out of our organization or they're on leave, someone else is able to pick up the slack.
So if I was to sum it up, you take your clients on a planned journey that manages everybody's expectations.
Correct. And we always overachieve.
Good, man. That's what we want.
Yeah.
I want to take back, because it's a very important element as we kind of come into the last couple of minutes. It's just to talk about the importance of a brief. So many people don't understand that importance, and you and I are on the same page of this. Maybe with the sort of 2 minutes we've left, you might just talk about that.
Yeah, and this is, I suppose, where my life experience in the industries has kind of brought this full circle. Um, Briefs are extremely important for the client and for the agency that you're working with, because it creates a sense of clarity, and it creates an expectation for a project. And if the brief is not defined from both sides and understood on both sides, then it just falls to pieces. And we've had experience with this in this current company. I've had it in the previous ones, and it just leaves a sour taste in everyone's mouth. So having the understanding of, okay, Alec is now giving me a brief for a digital marketing strategy. Do I really understand what he's looking for? What's his goals and objectives? And does he understand that his goals and objectives are achievable or unachievable? And then being able to translate that into, right, put it in black and white, put a contract in place. That's the other thing that we've learned through our process, as well as having SLAs and making sure that everything is clear and concise and deliverables are there, so that the client understands what they're signing on the dotted line and we understand what we're delivering. So then when we do deliver, we're delivering what we say we're going to do. So I just think the importance of briefs is very overlooked, and I think from my knowledge and from knowledge in the industry as well, is that briefs wouldn't be the industry standard, which I think they need to be, because it creates that disconnect of what people expect and what's the expectations being delivered.
And I think misunderstandings cause huge time and costs in every organization.
They do, exactly. That's the biggest problem.